Hello and welcome back. We are going into our third session of the day here at Digital Leadership. Excuse me. Attracting talent and exceeding client expectations starts with a digital first approach, right? Find out how, today we're going to find out how top performing firms are leveraging Salesforce as a tool in their mission to lead with a digital mindset, from onboarding new talent to self service. Salesforce enables firms to move quickly and exceed their stakeholder expectations. Joining us today is Ariel Ward, Salesforce Solution Architect. Ariel brings a user centric focus to architect and delivers business solutions that scale. She is passionate about leveraging business solutions to drive insights for data driven decisions for her clients. Thanks for being here, Ariel. Um,
Thank
and,
you for
then
having me.
and we also have Cameron Price, Senior Salesforce Consultant. Cameron brings expertise and experience across several areas, including Sales Cloud, process automation, and advanced administrator. He's passionate about technology and the evolution of digital first business solutions. Thank you both for being here today. I'm going to hand it off to the both of you.
All right. Well, thank you for that introduction. So between myself and Ariel, we're going to talk a bit about, just that digital leadership and really trying to be as successful as possible in this digital world that we're moving into. So I did want to start off and talk about some different trends that we're seeing and that will kind of help set the scene for the different Salesforce products we want to talk about that are helping our clients lead in a digital world. So if we can go to the next slide. Oh, sorry, too quick. The next one as well. Thank you. So right off the bat, some of these may even seem obvious given what we've been through in the past 20 months. But we'll walk through them just briefly and then show how they kind of lead to what we want to talk about next is different Salesforce products. So this first one here, remote work will rise to 300% of pre-COVID-19 levels. So again, that may seem obvious here, even given the fact that we're in a virtual conference right now with coworkers of mine that truly I have not physically met in person. So how can you foster those different work environments and lead in work environments where your office is everywhere? So impacting company culture and talent that way. The next one is impacting customer service with this statistic here. Digital customer service interactions will increase by 40%. Again, that may seem obvious if some of you are doing maybe some Christmas shopping or whatever this time of year may be for you. But we're all expecting to be online more. And for that reason, our service to be more digitally focused. So how can you lead and impact customer service given that that's where this world is going? We'll touch on that a little bit. And then finally, impacting the customer experience. So in this 2021 Forrester poll, which is where these statistics are from, says 30% of today's B2B technology buyers say they expect a digital first engagement channel. So we'll talk a little bit about what that means to actually serve up that digital experience and make sure that you're accommodating these different changes that we're seeing in a digital world. So moving on to actually what we're going to be talking about given these different scenarios we're seeing. We want to talk about 3 Salesforce products today that we think are being utilized, we're seeing being utilized, we're implementing for different clients that's helping take that digital first approach and lead in that way. So first I'll talk about Slack and what all that entails. Then we'll talk about Service Cloud and then finish it off with Experience Cloud. So to start off, Slack, again, like I said, this conference alone shows just how digital we've gone. But we need as leaders to lead teams in a digitally remote world. So the product I want to highlight is Slack. And it was very cool earlier, if you were on earlier, to hear from Claire, just a real world example. IBM, man, the largest, I think she said the largest group of Slack users in a company, over like 30,000. So really seeing that there is real world examples for leading and adopting a tool like Slack. So I do want to step back just a little bit, because Slack may be brand new term for some people here. I'm not sure. For those who are following along in the Salesforce world really heavily, it may not be a surprise that Slack is the newest acquisition to the Salesforce team. But for those of you who maybe haven't used Slack, are new to Salesforce, it's very possible that this may be maybe one of the first times you're hearing about it. So I do want to kind of highlight a little bit about the history of Slack, and then we'll talk about some features that help you adopt that digital workforce, and then talk about how Salesforce and Slack together that have a really tight integration that'll help you kind of bring the best of both worlds together. So first, taking a look at Slack, it was acquired just this year, has quickly become a major part of the Salesforce platform. You'll see very commonly, I think even Claire alluded to it, is that Slack first culture, that Slack first mindset, Slack being one of the first places that digital engagement really starts for both employees, which I'll highlight mostly today, but also customers. One quote I want to highlight from now, I guess, the co-CEO of Salesforce, Mark Benioff, talking at Dreamforce this year. He said, if Salesforce started today, there would likely be no Salesforce Tower in San Francisco. So hence the nickname Digital Headquarters. And for anyone who's seen the Salesforce Tower in San Francisco, it's quite a monument, honestly, and it's iconic to the skyline now. So to say that that's how much they believe in this concept of digital headquarters, something to take pretty seriously, that may not have existed given the timing today. So Slack was first very popularly known as the email killer, but is now much more than that. Slack aims to make employees more productive by killing or removing those unnecessary email communications, unnecessary meetings, utilizing automated workflows, which we've been heard a lot about today, and just really making information more transparent across your teams. So for instance, think more virtual walls, not a building. Think Slack Connect and not spending a week on site at the client site. Think specific communication channels, not floors or pods of desks. Think huddles, not dropping by someone's desk. And then finally, thinking clips, not another meeting. So some of those terms, what does that mean, Cameron? So for virtual walls, really, from a leadership perspective, you can start to adopt Slack and really empower your team to think virtually. It's not a building where maybe you check in at a certain time and check out at a certain time. It's really empowering your employees to think virtually, and that lets them be the most effective in their environment. So that's what we mean by that. Slack Connect, I believe, is a product brought up earlier, newer product out of the Slack in the Slack ecosystem, which allows you not only to communicate with your team now, but Slack Connect lets you connect with your clients, your partners, by setting up your own channel and kind of inviting them in a way that really eliminates sometimes the need to actually travel physically. So you can think specific communication channels, like I said. So your desks may not physically be next to each other, but truly your desks can be next to each other virtually in designated communication channels. Huddle is a new feature, a new product this year. You can quickly set up a really instant meeting, not dropping time on someone's calendar, and also being very in the moments. You can set up a huddle and kind of have everyone who is available hop in real quick and talk about something. Maybe it's that meeting you just had and you want to get on the same page. The last thing I want to talk about is then clips. So another new product. So again, maybe you've been in those meetings where it's a little bit one-sided. It's one person talking, and why did this have to be a meeting? Clips is a great answer to that, and you can really lead your team, empowering them to do things like this, which is record themselves giving a demo, a memo, and send that off to your specific communication channel. So a great way to lead in that way. Okay, so that's a little bit about Slack standalone products, but what about Slack and Salesforce? That's probably why a lot of you may be tuning in. So right now, Slack and Salesforce, there are some pretty good integrations already to start. So you can search and preview different Salesforce records right there in Slack. So that's very neat way to, again, empower employees to utilize what's already there in Salesforce and bring it right into Slack. You can save your Slack messages to Salesforce. You can send messages from Salesforce to Slack. And then finally, what we're seeing a lot of is customizing alerts to different Slack channels where there's different people from what happens, different criteria that you've established in Salesforce. So that's something people are definitely taking advantage of and leading in that way. So yeah, like I said, Slack is quickly being built out, not to just be a standalone product. So there's a lot kind of down the pipeline that we're really looking forward to learn for ourselves, but also to bring to clients. About 16 integrations and probably more since the last time I checked that are coming to the Salesforce and Slack suite. So some things I want to highlight maybe to look forward to. So for practically what this could look like for you if you're on a sales team, maybe think about collaborating in a single Slack channel on a large opportunity, pulling in all the right people, all the right resources, all the right files, all in one place. For marketing teams, maybe think about nailing down a new campaign and exchanging and editing content all in one single digital location. For service teams, a lot of you, for one reason or another, may have to swarm on an issue. Maybe it surpasses a critical threshold that you established in Salesforce. You can all get together and be alerted, and then all be on the same channel. And then finally, more at maybe the executive level, serving up dashboards that you have scheduled or criteria-based to see in certain times. So that's just a brief taste of and brief examples of ways that Slack can really help you lead digitally with that within your teams and within your company. But I want to also hand it off to Ariel to transition more to talk about that customer service focus, not just internally focused of digital leadership.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So we have a slide here that's going to break down our Service Cloud presentation into 3 general areas that I like to discuss it. So one of them is information, which brings together that customer 360 topic, an idea that Salesforce presents quite a bit. The second one is communication. So all of the channels that Service Cloud helps you facilitate between communication with internal team members and also with any of your customers. And the third one is automations. So making sure that you're engaging at the right time, surfacing the information that you need at the right moment, and also guiding people throughout any sort of specific issue, right? And we know in the service industry, relationships can get pretty complicated, especially when it comes to like requests for proposals. So Salesforce, there's a ton of ways that you can help manage these complicated relationships. So if we go to the first one, which is information, right? It's really important that we stay informed on our customer status. For example, I called the bank the other day, as we often do, with a frustrating problem. And the first thing that they did after having called them multiple times was offer me a credit card. So one of the things that we can do with Salesforce is make sure that your customer support is in line with your salespeople. So sales can see open issues, so you can avoid those uncomfortable calls where I had a very stern conversation with them that I did not want a credit card. And then support can also see what products and services have been purchased to help provide support for that, or they can also help guide people in the right direction to be able to sell into the kind of services that you may be providing, right? So in our services industries, we might have different verticals, but it might be also helpful to know that you may be providing different services in a different vertical. And then that way you can guide your customers into taking advantage of the services that you provide. Another thing that Salesforce can help us do with the information like vertical that we're talking about is that our customers expect us to know everything that they've provided to us. So anytime a customer logs onto a portal, anytime the customer enters a bit of information, purchases a product, whenever your customer calls, they're going to expect you to know that they did those things. So the ability to connect across things like marketing and sales is for Salesforce is very easy. As an implementation partner, we just work to make sure we have surfaced the right information that you need when a customer calls in or messages in or slacks in or every other channel in communication. And we'll get to that in a minute. So that I think is one of the biggest pieces. It's in the core pieces of Salesforce overall, but it's that ease of configuration for the visibility and ability to view your customer's information when you need it. Oftentimes when I'm working with customers and clients, we just like to go back to their users and say, what is it that you're really trying to look at every single day, right? We have some key performance indicators, but maybe those are better on reports. So when you're talking to your customers, what is it that you're really trying to look at? And we use our customer-centric method of looking through layouts that make those so we can make pages navigable and action-oriented. And when I say action-oriented, that's something that Salesforce also does very well and something that we try to focus on when it comes to Service Cloud. So focusing on what your team needs to do and when, and so that we have what they need to see. So in that way, we'll use things like screen flows so that your support teams know what to ask, when to ask it, and make it easier instead of having to navigate through different screens. We can also implement things like macros. So if there's something that your customer support team is regularly doing and it's the same 6 clicks, we would implement something called a macro to help them just hit one button and then repeat those actions again. And so in that way, we can compartmentalize the work that needs to be done in different areas of the pages so that when people go to do their work, it just becomes, oh, I need to go do this. And this is when someone calls in, then I need to take this action next. And so you can map out these plans for them to make it very easy for them to get to what they need. The second thing, our other vertical here is communication. So Salesforce provides really great tools for both internal and external collaboration, right? So one of them, and we'll get to this bit of the slide in a little bit, but like Slack, for example, right? Slack's going to become a bigger, better tool for external and internal collaboration because it'll allow for you to easily jump on a difficult problem that maybe one of your clients is dealing with. Maybe it's a billing issue, maybe some part of an implementation or a project is going awry. You can start a huddle and you can get people on and everybody that you need at that moment in time. And the same thing with external clients, right? Like let's say you've sent them a bit of documentation and they just want some more information and they want access to somebody. Then you could start a Slack chat with them and they could have a better and quicker return of information. So one of the things that'll help enable is, so there's a study that Salesforce puts out once a year that is the state of service, right? And one of the statistics in there is that 83% of service professionals say that they've changed policies to provide more flexibility to customers during the pandemic. And I think this is one example of rapidly changing landscapes that the digital space has had to accommodate for very quickly. So when it comes to, let's say, new policies due to COVID, on like field service, when someone's going on site, then those things need to be communicated very quickly because there are both legal implications and health implications for the people there. So when it comes to your implementation partner, it's really easy for us to just say, okay, what is it that you need? And we can get that turned around very quickly. So it helps you be very agile and very mobile in times where things may be shifting very quickly. So the next is our communication channels with customers. So if we look over at the slide here, I specifically put this in here so that you can see the differences between 2018 and 2020. And anywhere the dot is, that the pink dot is above I think the dark gray dot or the brown dot, that's where we've seen a major increase in the usage of these communication channels. So you're going to see that phone is still pretty high up there, because I'm sure you've wondered, people still using phone? Yes. One thing that's really decreased, obviously, due to COVID has been the in-person service and help. And one thing that's really increased has been online chat and live support, as well as messenger apps, so integrations into WhatsApp and everything else there. Also mobile apps, mobile app presences, online communities, which Cameron's going to get to in a little bit, as well as video support, which is a big trend right now, is offering video support for your clients. So one of the things that another statistic from this report is that 83% of customers expect to interact with someone immediately when they contact a company, and 82% expect to solve complex problems by talking to one person. So within Salesforce, while you might be having these external conversations with other people, you may be flagging people in chat to come and help you because you need an assist on a specific issue. And I've definitely had to, one of the project that I have been on has been transitioning a customer from where their support was on another platform to Salesforce, because one of the things that was a complaint for their customers was getting bounced around. So if I called in for customer success and I had an issue as a customer, I would get forwarded to our technical support team for something else, and then my sales team would jump in, and the customer would feel that sort of ping pong effect of having to go from inbox to inbox, and information is always lost along the way, and then more time is spent trying to catch people up in other channels, and you end up losing that data as, again, that ping pong effect is happening. So again, keeping all the information under one roof, that's that customer 360 idea, but that also helps with like the communication as well. On the third, we have engagement, and automations. So it's basically how our support agents and how we engage our support agents and customers together. 77% of agents, again from the same report, say automating routine tasks allow them to focus on more complex work. And so interestingly enough, during the pandemic, what we saw was case volumes and customer support, all of the work that goes into that increased quite a bit. But budgets were sometimes even cut or stayed the same, and the headcount, meaning the people who worked that, so workforce management, also either decreased or stayed the same. So what we've seen is businesses relying more and more on automations and things like Einstein, which is Salesforce's intelligence platform to help us use artificial intelligence. And what they've been doing is helping automate those tasks so that people can spend more time in taking more volume and routing tickets where they need to go, as well as, again, not having to pass that information back and forth because maybe somebody lives in a different system, for example. So some of the places we look to automate. Basic information gathering. So when someone calls in or you immediately jump on a call, maybe they just provide their email or some sort of ID, and then you can pull up all the information related to them. It's become more and more difficult with data privacy laws, so you don't just have access to their cookies anymore. And so what we like to do is make sure that based off of one or two pieces of information, you can hopefully triangulate that person so that you can pull up the right account and that information. The other thing we like to automate a lot is the customer feedback. So making sure that that survey is sent out in the best way after you've had that interaction with your customer, so you know directly as the business if you are providing the right amount of service. So that might be delivered in different ways. If you are submitting if there's a ticket being closed out via email, then maybe the best way to send your survey is actually going to be through email. Or maybe you don't want to send a survey every time because your business functions differently and you want to send it on a monthly basis, right? Because they have engaged services. So we can automate all of that. Another might be through chat, right? Maybe sending an email after the chat's closed de-incentivizes engagement from your customers. So you would want to pop that up right after the chat has been closed. Case classification, that's another big one, right? So instead of having all of your cases or all of your issues come into one place and then someone has to manually sort them, we can use artificial intelligence to help you route them based off of people's skills and also the workload that's required to handle certain types of cases. Recommendations for next best actions. So let's say the case isn't closed, or let's say the issue is unresolved. Then what we can start doing is surfacing steps for people to take after the fact so that you can make sure that the issue continues to get pushed along the resolution road, right? The other is a transcription of customer interactions. Again, that communication between the customer and all those interactions that you're having internally about them. It's really important to have a log so that you don't lose anything if somebody were to leave the company. You don't like to say, oh, that person knew more about the situation. Why don't you go ask them? You want to just be able to go to their record and get that log. And finally is all the after case work, right? You close that out. What can we automate there to allow you to just move on to the next issue? And so with that, I'm going to pass it back over to Cameron to talk about the Experience Cloud and how you can probably surface that information for your customers.
Awesome. Thank you. So yeah, great transition into talking. So we talked about digital headquarters, focusing a little bit more internally, and we talked about customer service in a digital world. Now I want to focus on tying a lot of those things together and leading with a digital customer experience. So today I'll be talking about Experience Cloud. Some of you may be used to still kind of hearing communities or referring to it as such, as previously known, but we'll be referring to it, of course, as Experience Cloud today. So, what is Experience Cloud? Really at a high level, it brings the power of Salesforce, so that we just heard about, the Customer 360. It brings the power of that to the customers, partners, or even employees in a more externally facing digital platform or an experience. So again, everything that Ariel just touched on in Customer 360 can be utilized in some way or presented or interacted with, again, both employees and externally, by customers and partners. So that's really kind of the power of this Experience Cloud platform. And really, this is a big deal to lead the customer experience, because there was a time when you would need to hire maybe an outside design firm to design these engaging customer experiences, or maybe it was just a lot more involved with many different parts of the company, a lot of teams getting together to build out this customer experience. But with Experience Cloud, with Salesforce providing templates, providing themes, different components you can space around on a given screen. This means really more time to get the experience right, to make sure you're asking the customers, your clients, what are their pain points, what are their problems, what do they want from a digital experience. Really more time thinking, more time doing, than maybe getting all the right people in the room. And we are routinely seeing clients step up in ways they didn't think possible with Experience Cloud. They get to put on their design hat, they get to put on their marketing hat, their sales hat, all to put together this customer experience, this customer first experience in the digital Experience Cloud. So, not only can you build out a personalized experience for your customers, but you can make sure that it's a branded personal experience. Company A in, say, the financial services industry, and company B, maybe it's more customer facing and product selling, tangible products. They're not going to have not only the same maybe customer experience, but they're probably not going to have the same branded experience, and that's all fine and well. And Salesforce has accounted for that by allowing a branded experience pretty easily. So your customer will know where they are and what company they're interacting with just by not only the way it looks, but the way it feels going through everything. So there's probably a ton of different experiences we could talk about, but I want to talk about 3 key ones today. And those 3 being customer service, account portal, and partner central. So these are all experiences you can expect to really be ready to present to your customers if you adopt Experience Cloud. So first one is customer service. Really just helps build out an experience where customers can get help and get answers to their questions. So a few ways this is possible, maybe designing and implementing a knowledge base. So maybe as Ariel was talking about with customer service, you start getting the same questions over and over. Well, you have all that information tracked in those cases, and you can start to aggregate that into actually building out kind of a Q&A look and feel and what Salesforce calls knowledge, so that customers can search and get served up the appropriate answers to their questions. And the community can really confirm or deny that those are the best answers by providing them themselves, or upvoting or liking different answers as helpful. You really can start to foster a self-service community, which, going back to some of the earlier statistics, customers are expecting kind of one point of communication. So if they can do that themselves, all the more power to them. And then finally, in this customer service experience, you can think about community interactions, so that there's actually, you foster amongst your partners or customers a community amongst themselves, and can really start to build some camaraderie amongst each other. Secondly, account portal. This is a little bit different in that you can give customers access to their actual accounts. Maybe they can create their own cases online. They can maybe manage and track and follow their cases. You can allow them to update important account information, so that you stop sending the wrong the email to the wrong account or to the wrong address. Allow them to really, again, empower them to do that themselves. It's a great way to lead digitally. And then finally, the Partner Central I mentioned. This is all about managing your partners. So giving partners that visibility that maybe they're really craving into their opportunities and accounts that you couldn't have earlier. You can, again, empower them to take their data, work in a way that works for them, wherever it works for them, and however they do best. And of course, outside of these 3 experiences, there are others, and you can get as custom as you want. You can hire that outside firm if you want to really maybe do some custom CSS and really brand it even more specifically than you think that you're able to right out of the box. But of course, you also don't need to do that. So that's just a bit about one way to lead digitally in the customer experience. And generally, there's many more ways that we've seen clients get creative and need to serve different clients and partners as well. And these are just a few of the 3 products that we talked about today, just a few of the ways that you can lead in digital world. There's more Salesforce products. There's more industry specific Salesforce products. There's Salesforce apps, all to help clients or those who are watching really lead in this digital world. And of course, I'm happy, Ariel's happy, we're all able to answer questions. And then also, we'd love to demonstrate kind of hands-on, in the tools and the products themselves. We would love to do that as well. So with that, I don't know if there are questions, but I will pass it off.
Awesome. Cameron, Ariel, thank you so much. We do have some questions here. I think at least a couple. Let me bring them up right now. How does Chatter fit in with Experience Cloud? And whoever wants to take it, you guys can fight over it.
Yeah. So one way we've seen Chatter used and can be used is it can be kind of a mode of communication. So, and keeping it all within context of what you're viewing. So let's say, for instance, a case in an account experience. You're trying to get a hold of whoever is the case owner. You're saying, hey, actually, I've got it to work, or, this has been resolved, or maybe you have an additional point you want to put on the case you didn't put on it before. You can use Chatter to actually reach out and communicate and grab their attention of whoever's on the other side of that case. So that's one way I've seen it used.
Great. Another question, are huddle and clips features you talked about available in all Slack plans?
That is a great question. I don't have in front of me, there's 4 plans. I don't know what all 4 are called, but one is a free plan. And in that free plan, I do not believe clips and huddle are available.
Excellent. Is there any restrictions on using or seeing customer 360 information in an app or a mobile device?
So Salesforce has a native app. I can take this one. Salesforce has a native app, and within that native app, if you're leveraging that for internal use, there's no limit to the information that we can display on there. That's just a different type of configuration, and we just make sure that the layouts, obviously, they're going to be smaller, so we work to make sure that's a good user experience. If you were to build your own app and use your community in that app, then you can leverage some more development tools, not just some of the more admin click tools, to be able to surface that information, build out those customer profiles and layouts.
Great. Well, excellent. That is all the questions I had for you today. Thank you again for being here. We're going to move on in just a few minutes after the break to our last session of the day, our professional panel. We'll see you in a little bit.